Hi, my name is Mary Michael Rawling. I'm the Public Affairs Manager here at MCAG.
Hello, my name is Marissa Bravo and I'm the Multimedia Specialist here at MCAG.
So this video is going to be the training that you received to talk about how to do a community outreach event. So we're going to talk about all the different processes from beginning to end that you really need to think about in order to be prepared. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you are going to do an outreach event is obviously find an event you want to do. Some of these might just come into you, you might get the request, or you might need to go out and seek them depending on what your job position is. But no matter what happens, the first thing you really need to do is contact the PIO team. If there's any registration, paperwork that needs to be submitted, a payment that needs to be made, we're going to take care of that for you on our end. The next thing you really need to think about is staffing. How many people need to work the event? That's going to depend on how long it is, what types of folks you need to be able to answer questions and engage with your audience. So you really need to work with your supervisor and the PIO team to answer that question. The PIO team may help with staffing an event in some cases, but we may not either be available or be the appropriate subject matter experts to be able to do that. The next thing you're going to do is really meet and discuss the logistics of the event with the public affairs team. This can include any number of things from parking, setup time, the materials you need, the promotional items. Where's the check-in? Where do I go? Where is this event held? Oftentimes the agency does the same events every year, so you'll be able to potentially speak with staff that have had experience with that event. One of the things you're going to need to think about is booking an agency vehicle, how to get to and from the event. What vehicle will you need? Will you need a bigger vehicle to carry more things? Or will you be okay with a small vehicle? That all depends. But we have a few different options for you to choose from. The next thing is think about where the event is going to be. Is it going to be outside? Is it going to be inside? Those are going to determine some of those bigger materials you're going to need. You're always going to need a tablecloth, so make sure you identify where that is and make sure it's clean. It should be cleaned, but just double check. Are you going to need to bring a table and a chair with you? Sometimes those are provided, sometimes we have to bring them ourselves. If you're outside, do you think you're going to need a tent, either for to protect you from the sun or maybe even a little rain? It has happened from time to time. Sometimes you might be presenting information and you might need an easel. You may need a banner to display on a fence or on your tent. And then all the types of things that you're going to need on your table. Are you going to need some stands for your handouts that you're going to give away, some acrylic display stands for other kinds of information? Those types of tools are something to think about. Something really important, a few things to always have kind of in your back pocket because you will need them. Some tissues, some disinfecting wipes, some hand sanitizer. We run into all different kinds of things when you're out in the community that you might need those tools to address for either yourself or for members of the public. And then depending on the kind of event it is, you may need things like scissors, binder clips to clip papers if it's windy. You might need to tape something down somewhere. You just never know. So just kind of always keep those things with you in your supply kit. Let's see, dress code for the event. So we're always going to be wearing agency tops, whether it's a sweater or a shirt. We have them in all different, for all different agencies. So you have MCAG, the bus, regional waste, YARTS. So whatever agency that you're representing, you should always be dressed appropriately. You can wear jeans at outreach events. I would probably recommend that because we're going to be lifting and carrying and bending over and putting things away. And so that's important. And then the other thing is your name tag. We always want to make sure that we connect with the people we work with, that we look official and professional. So make sure you wear your agency issued name tag with you. Your phone. We all have smartphones, and they're important to use at events in limited circumstances. A lot of times the communication we're going to be having with people and the message we get across or some of the information we might want to share is either on our websites or on our smartphone apps. So I would recommend, if your agency has a smartphone app of any type, make sure it's downloaded and ready to use on your phone so you can show people. The other thing this is a camera. We're going to talk about taking pictures, but be prepared to do that while you are at the event. And then really think when you're about your event. This is really important before you go anywhere as you're planning your event, is your message. What is the message that you really want to get across to the people that you're engaging with? And then think about what are those questions or facts that you're going to need to initiate a conversation. We're just not here to be silent and people can take what they want from their table, but they're also not going to come up and be prepared to initiate a conversation if they don't know what we're about. So really be thinking about things like, have you heard about YARTS? Have you ever ridden YARTS? Or do you know that seniors and veterans and college students can ride the bus for free in Merced County? Or in this case with regional waste, do you want to play our fun recycling game to win a free oil pan? Those types of questions and hooks allow people to really kind of lean in and be interested in what your table is about. So speaking of games, think about what your visuals are going to be on your table. So is it going to be a game? How is it going to convey your message? In this case, it's going to be having people figure out how to appropriately recycle at their home. And so you really want to think about what are the rules of the game? How am I going to engage? I don't want the game to be a distraction from the message. I want the game to be how they engage in the message. And then how are my handouts going to support that? And speaking of handouts, you really want to make sure you have what you need before the event. If you don't have something you need to talk to the public affairs team, talk to your supervisor, talk about the swag or the promotional items you might need to support that. And then finally, if there's any type of outreach you want to do beforehand, for example, you want to put out a social media post that says, hey, come visit me at the fair this week, or at this event in this community at this time, or come win something and visit me when you visit me at my table. That's the kind of things the public affairs team can help you prepare for to hopefully make your time out there really worthwhile.
Now that Mary Michael talked about what you should do before the event, it is now the day of the event, so I'm going to talk about setup. And the first thing that you should do is, what do you do when you arrive? So you need to make sure to arrive early. You have everything settled, you know where you're going to park, where you're located. Give yourself some time just in case you're a little lost or unsure of what's happening the day of. Hopefully you have all of the information you need. Sometimes things happen. So let's be prepared and arrive early. Once you get to your event and you get to your space, they should have a table set up. If not, you will have a table that you set up. Set up the table, and we're going to start by placing our tablecloth here. We need to make sure that this tablecloth was cleaned or ironed or prepped before we arrive to the event. And once we get here, we set it up. We need to make sure that the logo is nicely displayed up front, in the middle. None of the cloth is hanging too far below the table, that it's kind of just lined up with the ground there. And we have a great even amount around the whole table. Once we have our tablecloth set up, then we can talk about where we're going to place our materials. We have our acrylic stands, we have swag, we have this game, we have the bigger prizes. Where are we going to place all of this? So I like to think a lot about message and how are we going to display the message and what is the table telling as the story it's telling as you're looking at it. So here I have all of our little flyers that are oil-based, recycling-based, and that's going to be the recycling side. That's what I picked. So we need to make sure that we go through the flyers, familiarize yourself with the flyers beforehand so that way you know where to place them when you get here. But I like to place all of them kind of together. Sometimes we have English and Spanish versions of those. You need to make sure to keep those together. In this case, we have them on the back. It's Spanish and front is English. So just make sure that you are very aware of what kind of materials you have and where you need to place them. Some flyers can be displayed in acrylic stands like this. Other than just being freeform, these are the ones we hand out, and these are maybe ones that are just kind of seen by the customer. They have a QR code. Sometimes we have material that we can hand to the person that we are talking to that we would like to have back. So in that case, we do laminate sheets like rate sheets or maybe route schedules that we have that we only want to kind of keep on this side. We have some that we pass out to the person that is coming, but we also have some on our side, so we know that we have one handy for ourselves and that we can kind of talk to them about. So we will laminate some things that we want to keep safe from rain, any sort of dirt, and that we could wipe down easily. Next up is, where do you place your swag? So as Mary Michael said, we want to make sure that swag is something that we use to create the engagement between whoever is coming over to our table. So we only want to place a few things out here, smaller types of swag like pencils, pens. We have things that are small and we don't mind if people come up and grab as we're talking to someone if we're a little busy at the moment. But we're hoping to have someone come over and that's how we can create the connection. So we keep the small swag up here and we only keep a little bit so that way people aren't trying to grab one of each and put it in there. They feel like there's less out here, so they're not going to just grab all and leave us empty. We keep our bigger swag items in the back, such as this little compost bin right here. We have our oil pans. This is just a display, and we actually keep all of our other ones in the back of the table that we can give away. Other items are like little tote bags. These are very limited items, so we want to keep them in the back, under the table, or to the side, somewhere easily accessible, but not easy for others to grab on the other side of the table. These are going to be items that are rewarded to people who come and have a really good conversation with us. For where you keep your swag, these smaller things right here, I like to organize them behind the table, under the table, in small boxes or bags. We have a bag full of our shoelaces right here that I could easily grab and restock on this side. I also have a box full of the pencils and the pins and other little things that I could easily grab and put back and then slide it back under the table. Anything for swag left that you want to talk about?
I would just mention kids and stuff for kids, making sure that you have something that's specifically appealing to kids to engage the family.
A great way for us to make a great connection with someone, and if they have little ones are very interested in certain things, so we like to try to keep some things out here that kids might be interested in. They like these little pencils, things that seem very like, oh, what's that? We have some shoelaces that the kids really love, and having the kids run over here and grab a few things is a great way to start engaging the parent, maybe asking the kid a couple of questions about if they know anything about recycling, in this case for RWA, and it's a great way to get the parent over here and start talking to them, especially with this game here. The kids love to play it, and so they can play it for they don't really want the oil pan. They could play for their parents to have the oil pan, but there's also other things that we can give the children if the parent is not with them or if the parent doesn't want oil pan. So we have like different prizes in the back, such as this flower that the kids can have if they came and engaged a little bit more with us. Now we have our table all set up with swag, our flyers, and all of our games. Bigger swag in the back, but we have to think about smaller things. What's happening back here? How does our setup look in the back? Well, we have a couple of tissues just in case we need that. Some disinfecting wipes. In front, we do have the hand sanitizer that others can use or we can use. If you have water or anything like that, please keep it out of sight, hidden behind something. We have the cards back here for the game. Always find little places that you can keep your things hidden from the eye of whoever's coming over. Another thing I like to do is keep some business cards on hand. I like to keep them right here in my pocket, but you can also keep them in these little spaces back here so that we have it easily accessible just in case you need to give out a business card to someone. Our final part of setup is going to be past the table, and that's going to be our chairs and any other boxes we have. Usually you will have about 2 chairs at each table. We do not want more than that, and we keep them nice and orderly in the back, tucked in if we can. If you're up and walking around, try not to sit often. If there's people coming over, please stand and engage them. But sometimes we have a lull, so that's why we have the chairs. If you are speaking to someone and they're kind of getting in your way, make sure to push the chair back in a very nice way and come back to the table and have a conversation, do whatever you need to do. Lastly is our boxes here. We have all these boxes that we put our swag in, our flyers. Where do we put them? I like to put them just under the table, under our tablecloth. They're hidden, they're out of our way, they're out of the viewer's way, and we can easily grab them and move them out under the table if we need to. Some final things I would like to talk about is weather. Remember, we can't control the weather, we can't control how things happen, so you need to be prepared for that. Personally, I like to make sure to check the weather, double check if I need to bring an umbrella, or if I need to bring some extra water, some snacks because it's too hot. Make sure that you are prepared for yourself for the event that day in the condition that it's going to be. Like Mary Michael said, do we have a canopy? If we don't, what are you going to do to make sure to stay out of that heat and keep yourself hydrated? If it's windy, make sure that you're going to have a way to keep all your material on the table, and it happens. So a good way for me to keep all the flyers together, I like to put these little clips on here. Sometimes we have things that are displayed on easels, and that's when you have to really get creative and try to figure out a way to tie those things down. You really have to be ready to change things up and react when it happens. So just be prepared with all of those materials that Mary Michael told you to bring.
Okay, you are at your event, you've planned, you're prepared, you're set up, you're ready to go. We've got our agency issued apparel and name tag on, our table looks great, and now it's time to engage people that come visit us at our table in the conversation. The big thing is, don't wait for them to come to you. Remember your hook questions and your facts, so as people walk by and they kind of give you that side eye that they're kind of interested, but they're not going to directly connect with you themselves, that's when you need to take the initiative to say, hey, do you recycle at your home? Hey, have you ever ridden the bus? And we don't have to yell across the room, but it's something we know when people are trying to connect, but maybe they're just a little bit shy. So that's really when you use those messages to your advantage, and use them to get a conversation going. Speaking of conversation, we often encounter a lot of people in the community that may or may not speak English. We try to know the types of events where we might need a member of staff to be there that's bilingual. Oftentimes it's either Spanish or Hmong in the Merced County community, but there could be some other languages out there. For example, if you are bilingual and you speak Spanish as well as English, it's really great to try to engage someone by saying, hi, hola. It's okay to say both and see how they want to respond to you and what language they're comfortable in. The most important thing when we're engaging with people, though, is smiling. No matter what language you speak, your body language says everything you need to without saying a word. So always smile, make eye contact with the person. Marissa talked about standing. I can't tell you how important that is. We've all been to places where we've encountered people that are sitting behind their table like this and their table is hiding them. And you're much less likely to want to have a conversation with that kind of person. Definitely don't want to be sitting, slouching, having our hands crossed and folded in front of us. All of those tell someone that you're really not interested in a dialogue with them. So standing, if at all possible, stand to the side of your table and talk to them and show them what is on your table, and make sure they can hear you. That's really important. Sometimes we're inside and there's a lot of people around and it can be loud and echoey. So make sure that they know that they have your attention and that they can hear you. And if you are with someone else at your table, another member of staff, so for example, if Marissa was standing right here with me and we might be having a conversation and someone comes by, this conversation always stops, and the person visiting our table always takes priority. So make sure that the person at your table always has your full and undivided attention. Don't worry about this conversation, you can come back to it later, right? Be prepared. Sometimes we have encounters that we're really not prepared for, that we're not really expecting. We're out here, we have good energy, we're smiling, but people may come to our table that are unhappy for some reason. That's just going to happen. So be prepared for how to handle that. Always remain positive, professional, respectful. Demonstrate a willingness to listen to them and to help them find a solution to the problem. Hopefully they're expressing a problem that does have a solution. And if you don't know what the solution is, offer to follow up with them. Take their information. Marissa mentioned business cards. That's when you might give them your business card, ask them to follow up with you, get their number, their email, however they want to be contacted, ask them what their preference is, so that they know you're listening. Some people just had a negative experience for whatever reason, or maybe they've made negative assumptions about our services. Other times, depending on the environment, they might just be having a bad day, or they've had too much to drink, frankly. We've experienced that. So stay safe, first and foremost. We care about your safety. We haven't really ever had any major issues, but just be prepared that there might be an uncomfortable situation. And if you have a partner with you, that might be something that both of you can work together to really, shift the conversation into something more positive. And speaking of food and drinking, make sure that you are not eating at your table, if at all possible. Marissa mentioned you might need to bring a snack if it's a long event. Make sure that's kept under the table. And if you need to eat, if you are by yourself, make sure you're not doing that when you're engaging with someone. You're stepping back from the table and doing it discreetly. But if you do have a partner, break each other. Have someone go and leave the table and have their snack, have their meal, and then come back when they're ready again to engage with the public. That's ideal. Same thing with beverages. Beverages on the table is not ideal, but if that's your only place, make sure it's hidden out of view. We definitely don't want to give the impression to people that their beverages it's okay for them to set down their drinks on our table. We have had incidences where drinks have been spilled. It's not a great situation. It is okay for someone, if they put their drink down, it's okay for you to say, I'm sorry, can you please not put your drink on the table? We can do that in a very polite way, and most people completely understand. And you definitely don't ever want to hold someone's food or drink for them. Sometimes they have their hands full. It's really for them to figure out if they want to pick something up from our table, to figure out how they're going to do that without using our table as a place to put their things down. One of the reasons why we do this, but it's certainly not the only reason, because we always want to keep our table orderly and visually appealing, but you never know when a board member is going to walk by at our event. It happens all the time. Really know who your board members are as you prepare for the event. If you're not familiar with them, go on our website, take a look. There's pictures. Because we always want to make sure we're putting our best foot forward when there's board member, and definitely if they're there, make sure to take a picture either of them at our table, behind the table with our staff. We definitely want to acknowledge their presence and celebrate that they're spending the time with us at our table and helping to promote our information and our messages. Remember that our websites and social media accounts, our apps, are other tools and resources that aren't at the table. I talked about that before in terms of communication. people are asking, for example, if something's recyclable, and I don't know off the top of my head because I don't work at the landfill, I'm going to show them the app that they can download, and I'm going to look up that exact thing that they're asking for on my app in real time so I can teach them how it works and where they can go to get the information in the future. Same thing with our website. Oh, I don't know exactly when that bus leaves that particular place, but I'm going to show you where the schedules are on our website, and I'm going to answer this question for you and show you how you can get that answer in the future yourself. And then we talked about pictures a little bit and phones. You know, it's nice to always, once your table's all set up and the event's ready to go, take a picture of that table. If you have a partner, take a picture with your partner. Maybe have someone else take it of both of you. If your partner's working the table and they're to the side having an interaction, just kind of step away with your phone and take that picture. Selfies are okay, but we definitely always want to make sure it's okay with those folks if we're taking a picture with them. If they're in public, it's okay to take a picture of them. We don't have to get consent forms signed, but definitely be cautious with children. We want to make sure we're asking the parents first, asking, even if it's just an adult, asking them, is it okay if I take your picture? Many of them will be very willing to have their picture taken. We're just trying to be professional and courteous by asking first. If for whatever reason you don't have the opportunity to ask, remember you can always take it from behind them. So your picture is of their backs, but with the face of our staff, that's okay. It's really people's images that they're most sensitive about. So just something to be aware of. It's totally okay. We just want to make sure we do it in the right manner. But communication is key, both with our voices, with our faces, with our body languages, where we stand, and then the tools that we use.
Okay, we went through the whole process and the event is over. What do you do now? Well, first, make sure not to pack up early. Sometimes you'll see others around you packing up early before the event is even over. And you are very tempted to do so too, but don't do it. This is extra minutes that you can spend trying to engage those last minute people that can really make a difference. Also, some places don't allow you to leave early, and it can really damage the relationship with whatever group put on the event. So make sure that you stay there the full time and pack up when the time comes. When packing up, I like to stay organized. Staying organized will help you in the long run and for your next event. So I like to keep everything together as I put them away. I like to use these clear sleeves here to put things away and keep them in a weatherproof area. So I like to keep things together, put them away, put them in their box neatly, and then continue on with the rest of it. Some things will not fit in the box, such as this game. It's very special in sense, so we will keep it in things like a tote bag, and other larger items might go in tote bags or different types of boxes. So you'll have different ways to put things away, and try to keep them in the same order you took them out. If you stay organized throughout the whole event and you're keeping everything behind the table nice and neat, then cleanup should be a breeze. You should be able to put everything in their folders, in their places quickly, and get out of there as soon as possible. Lastly, where do you put these things? Where do they go after you put them in the car or give them to whoever they're going to be given to? You need to make sure that you know all of this information before the event ends. You need to know if they're going to be put in an office, if you're giving them to a certain person, if you need to come back the next day for cleanup. Sometimes some events will allow you to leave things overnight, so who's going to come back the next day, pick those things up, get everything loaded, and at what time. You need to make sure to communicate that with your team so that way they know what's happening and where everything is at, so that we're not losing things. Sometimes weather gets in the way, and that means sometimes our things might get wet. So if things are wet, please don't put them away to get moldy and gross somewhere. When you get to wherever you need to put these things, make sure the layout, for example, if the tablecloth got wet, lay it out so that way it could dry. Make sure to communicate this with your manager or anyone else that needs to know, so that way these things can be properly put away or cleaned, and we can avoid damaging any of our material. After we put away our acrylic stands, our flyers, everything like that, we want to make sure that we keep this tablecloth nice and organized and clean, so that way when we have the next event, we can just take it out and put it back on the table. So if it got dirty, you need to, like I said, let somebody know, so that way we could get that dry cleaned or cleaned in any way. Make sure to put it in a separate bag or a separate place if it does need to be cleaned, so that way we could keep it away from other objects. When you do put this away, you need to make sure to fold it correctly. Don't just bunch it up and put it in a bag or a box. Make sure to try to work together with maybe your teammate or someone else to fold it up nicely and put it back where you found it. And that's it for cleanup. It's time to talk about debrief. Now that the event is over and everything is cleaned up, it's maybe the next day or next week, and it's time to get together with your team and do a little bit of a debrief.
This can be really informal, just talking about how the event went, and every little detail about it, you'll probably figure out from experience pretty quickly what were those little tweaks that could have been made that would have made the event better for you.
Things you would like to talk about, or maybe things that went wrong, things that went right, things that need to be changed. Were the materials that you have serving you well? How can they be changed, or how can you use them better? Share tips or criticisms that you saw with your team, so that way you can improve for the next time.
And also, like, maybe you ran out of something at the event and you need to restock for next time. Is it a paper that you just can make more copies of, or is it some sort of promotional items that we might need to reorder? Those types of details are really important to communicate with the right person.
Also, sometimes we have some gaps as well, so maybe you found out, oh, we don't have a flyer for that. Let the PIO team know, let your team know, so that way we can get that flyer made up for the future and help you to get that message across.
Yeah. And it's not just about what's at our table and what's within our control. Sometimes there's really good information to share with our teams about the event in general. Maybe they had a really focused audience in an area we weren't quite prepared for. Maybe they communicated something differently or in error to us that we need to learn for next time. Maybe they told us we're the wrong parking lot to park in, but a different place would be more convenient.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that we need to think about is swag. Did you run out? Did you have enough? Did you have too much of something? Please let people know, so that way they could restock those boxes that you're taking out to events, but also that way PIO can reorder some things if they need to. Maybe you notice that people really enjoyed this certain type of swag. Let your team know, let PIO know, so that way we can take that into account next time.
And also, remember when we were talking about in communication, there might be some things that you need to follow up on with certain people that you didn't know the answer to. Please do that right away. But if there's you don't know those answers, that's the great time in the debrief to say, someone asked me about this. How do I find that information, or where do I? Or maybe someone else, a manager or something, needs to make that follow-up depending on what the circumstance is. That's all the kinds of things you need to be thinking about in that debrief.
And also, let's say you have those photos that Mary Michael talked about. Where do you bring them? Well, I'm a multimedia specialist, but you might have someone else that you need to give those to. Make sure to communicate that with your manager and with the multimedia specialist or someone in PIO, so that way you could get those photos to PIO the correct way, and that way we could get those up on our socials or newsletter or any other way.
So great job. You're going to do so well out there. It's really a lot of fun. It's a lot of work and preparation, but it's definitely worth it. Good to get out of the office and really interact with people that use our services and programs, because they need that information. And thank you for all you do.
Good luck at your event.